What's up, everybody? It's your boy Maurice I. Jones here with Let's Talk, a new series that we're going through where we talk about things concerning the Bible, things concerning your life today, and whatever topics that I receive, we talk about them. And so today, the topic of discussion is going to be we're talking about situation that is taking light in media and everywhere today, as well as its likeness to a man of God. Are they one and the same? I brought a panel of some good friends here today, and we're going to talk about it. Some guys I believe to be manly men that we can have these conversations. And so if you're watching, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I'm going to bring the panel on now. I'm going to have each one of them introduce themselves, and then we're just going to jump right into the conversation. All right, let's see here. Welcome everybody to the live. If you were able to add your channel, were you guys able to add your channels to it? Give me a thumbs up. If I in the comments, if I sound good, give me a thumbs up. Or give me a like or a thumbs up in the comments there. And so whoever wants to start first, introduce yourself and tell us like if you have a channel or any information people can get on you to start off with.
Well, I'll go first. I'm Deron Harper. I'm an assistant pastor at my church. I don't particularly have a channel, but I will kind of start that maybe after the summer, kind of getting some things on the wrap. You could definitely find me at Deron Harper. My page is public on Facebook, and it would be that same name will be that on YouTube. So I'm here to have a great conversation with some great men of God, and we'll see what we can do and help somebody out.
Let's see. Awesome. Thank you for joining us tonight. Anybody else?
Yeah. Hi, y'all. My name is Jermaine King, hailing from That Christian Fam channel here in Dallas, Texas. And we talk about biblical, we talk about topics in, current topics, but we also try to make it to where it relates. What does thus saith the Lord about those situations? So we engage with pop culture, we engage in current events, and everybody has something to say about it. But what we try to do is we want to share the Christian slant on it, or look at things through the lenses of the scripture. And so, sometimes those things can be wild, and sometimes they are very, very orthodox. But either way, man, we always try to bring you content that is going to challenge you to grow and encourage you and empower you in a very Christ-like way. So.
Amen. Who's next?
All right, so I figured that I'll put down my apron and say what's up to you, good people. So my name is Chad Murray. I am a mortgage lender and a coach around finances. I have home buying education programs, as well as written 2 books, pretty good books. My mom said so. That's how you know. And tonight I'm just looking to really delve into this conversation, this topic, as Brother Maurice said, that this is a hot topic in popular culture right now. And I think that I'm really looking forward to hearing what the other brothers have to say about it. So happy to be here.
And I think that leaves you, Dre. Dre, is your sound working? Okay, so he might be having trouble with his sound. But let's get right into the conversation. First question on the table here, just so the people know what we're talking about, because topic at hand is alpha male versus man of God. So just to kind of get a starting point, for me, when I think about an alpha male, the first thing I think of is that red pill conversation, and you guys know what I'm talking about, that superior male likeness and being. But for you guys here, when you hear alpha male, and when you hear man of God, how do you define those terms?
Oh my gosh. Listen, I might defer, or I might fall back just a little bit tonight because I kind of want to get everybody else's thoughts on it and then come in and give my. I could go in on this topic a lot, but I guess when you ask the question, I guess it depends on what you define an alpha male is. Because
Right. Yeah.
because I know that you asked that question a couple of weeks ago about alpha male, and I said, for myself, I don't really have time to concern myself on whether I'm an alpha or a beta because I'm too busy being a man of God. And so I guess I wouldn't fall in that category of beta by the world's stances or the world's standards. But I would really like to understand a little bit deeper as to what people refer to when they say alpha, because some people define an alpha male as a guy who can slay anybody he sees. Some people define an alpha as someone who has a domineering spirit, to where they can use and abuse people around them and not really love on them like they should, or put themselves first above any and everybody. Those are some of the traits that have been attributed to alpha males. But what I have discovered in being in this manosphere or red pill space is that everybody has their own little version or definition of what an alpha male is. And so I don't really ascribe to that per se. I mean, I can see that there are maybe some helpful and some benefits to it, but my main concern is being a man of God. And if I'm a man of God, then that will take care of all of these other things. So,
amen, and
Right.
ditto to that. Because I'm the same way. I never really tried to focus on what the alpha male was, or even for me growing up without a father, the first thing I want to do is find out what it was to be a man and then start from there. And because even when I came, I grew up in the church and all that, but even when I graduated, went to the Navy, and whatnot, that was still me still trying to find myself and how I wanted to kind of interact with society and whatnot. So to be honest with you, being a man of God wasn't the first thing on my mind, but just actually finding out what it was to be a man. So I think a lot of times when people are trying to define themselves as an alpha male, even a man of God, sometimes it's dependent. They're really just searching for identity for their own selves. So I think the first thing that somebody needs to do is find out what a man looks like to them, and then go from there to there. And then if you do want to, and of course we're going to say God first, as a Christian channel, kind of go the right way. You do want to kind of underline yourself with the underpinnings of having a good foundation in Christ. But there are a lot of people that really just need to start off with, how do I want to actually serve the world? And that's how you actually formulate the idea of being a man of God. So I think first, knowing what is your end game with trying to define yourself as an alpha male, or even to the females, what is the end game of trying to define you looking for alpha male? What is the end game of really what you're looking for with a man of God? Do you really want a man of God, or is that just something nice that you just like to say because you grew up in the church? Or do you really want, or do you not want the man of God, because you figured that they're soft and not dominating, or whatever the case might be? But you have to look at what you're actually looking for to actually know what to go into the store and buy.
Right.
I missed a part. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah,
I missed the first portion of what you said. So are you saying that, when it comes to women of God or women in general, who said that they want a man of God, that you're questioning if they really do want a man of God. Is that what you're saying?
In some instances, I believe that there's always, we grew up in church. There's always, and when I teach Bible study or whether I'm teaching children, even adults, I always, when I want to kind of an open and honest answer, I always say, don't give me the church answer, so to speak. So sometimes I believe people say things and not know what that actually means when they say stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean. I'm not saying that they don't want it. I'm just saying sometimes they say it just because it's more colloquialism versus actually knowing what they're actually looking for.
Agreed. I understand what you're saying, because I just want to make sure I was clear on that first before I got into what I was going to say about that. Because Maurice, I know you're familiar with my channel. I did a series on the pseudo Christian woman, and so we have a lot of that here in the South, here in Dallas, Texas. We have a lot of pseudo Christian women, to where they have the appearance of a godly woman, but they don't really want a godly man to pair with. And they say they want a godly man, but what they really want is they just want a man that won't cheat on them. They don't want the man that's going to spend hours in voluntary service. They don't want a man that's going to give to the church. They don't want a man that's going to put God before them. What they're really saying is, I want to be first and foremost. That's why we don't really ascribe to the moniker of bae, like B-A-Y. I mean, B-A-E. We don't really agree with that, because I don't put my wife before God, and she don't put me before God either. So, but anyways, I think the if we're talking about on a totem pole, they want it to be them, then God, then the job, then the kids, or something like that, somewhere along that line. But it definitely starts with them being first. And so when you actually get a man that puts God first, you need to understand what that's going to look like. Meaning you're going to have to give up some time with your hubby. You're going to have to give up some time with him and not be selfish with him, and be selfless when it comes to him. And if you're selfless when it comes to him, then he might actually put you first in a lot of situations, just not before God. So I really love where you went with it.
Yeah, because I'm now I'll let Chad go first. Chad, did you have anything on that? What defines alpha?
Yeah, so I think before we even speak about a woman's involvement in it, I think it starts with a man getting rooted in who he is, right?
Amen.
Because
Amen.
if you're a man of God, if you're about God first, then I think that could connect you to being an alpha. Now, an alpha is a leader. An alpha is a leader of the pack, right? And when you really check it, we're in a society where leadership looks a lot of different ways. Maurice is a leader in the sense that he's able to like push play, launch off when it comes to digital products, when it comes to programs, when it comes to writing books. There's a leadership element in that, right? I'm a leader in my lane, right? And what I do is what I do. And it sounds like you gentlemen are leaders in your own space. And I think that being connected to your purpose on the planet, being connected to the purpose that God has given you, and really embracing that wholeheartedly and allowing that to come first, put you into that space that you're not gonna be bothered by what the weather is outside, all right, or about what it says in your bank account, because you know that you're in a mission, you're on a mission movement, right? And when you align to that, then all things come after. And I think that's the ultimate mark of an alpha. Now, we're not in the time where, you know what I mean, we have to slay dragons or the last man standing kind of a situation, right? But when you talk about alpha and a man of God, when we talk about like the red pill community, they have it absolutely right. They have it absolutely right when they talk about what is an alpha male. The only piece that they're missing is that an alpha male, his job is to be willing to die for his family, to die for his woman, and to surrender himself for his purpose. And without that, what do you have? You don't have a real leader. You don't have a
Right.
real alpha. So what these brothers are talking about are dudes that are just puffing their chest, asking for all of the glory without actually going through any of the wars. So that's my stance on it.
That's good because I'm about to let you go, Dre. But from what I'm hearing, it sounds like when real alpha males can define alpha males, they could be mutually exclusive, one with the other, like alpha male and man of God. But like kind of like what, or I guess what Chad was going with, the way society kind of puts their own wording on it. Like, are they mutually exclusive? Which is going to be my next question, because on like one hand, like a real alpha, like if we're defining what it means to be an alpha leader, and we're doing things God way, that's in a sense could be that alpha male. But when you throw it out into the world to the society, right, it's mixing with toxic masculinity, that red pill community, and then like what it means to be an alpha male is then tarnished. So like in y'all opinion, or and I don't know, Dre, I'll let you go if you wanted to kind of
Yeah,
jump in that
no comment.
man of God, but even with that, and you can kind of start us off, like bring us in with your thoughts on alpha male versus man of God, and then are they mutually exclusive?
All right. Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me? Am I good on the
Yeah,
sound?
I can hear you.
Good. Okay. Yeah, I was having some technical difficulties, but I do like the subject. I've been listening to a lot of the red pill community and just seeing where their stance at. Because even as I've heard most of you, I think one of our responsibilities as men is to know what's being said and being taught out in society, and to be able to have a response or a way to combat it. When I think about alpha male versus man of God, I'll just look at the title in itself. When you think of an alpha male, he is someone, at society standpoint, is the head. He's the top dog. He is it. But a man of God still has a head, still has to surrender, submit under authority. And that makes a big difference, because understanding that even us in this earth as men, we still don't know it all. And we still have to be led. We still have to be shown the way. And that's God's responsibility. Whereas alpha male is, as the one in society's standpoint, is someone that does all the leading, in a sense, has all the answers, is the one that is responsible for everything. But I think it was not Chad. It was Jermaine. I think I heard when he was talking about the family dynamic and the family structure as far as the women. I know we're going to get there, but it's absolutely right. If you read in the New Testament, when Paul was giving the definition of a family, the man still had a head. The man still was submitted and surrendered to authority, and that's God. And that's one thing I think with the red pill community, as they're trying to X out God and put man in that place. And we know through scripture that's never going to work. That's never going to succeed, and it's always going to fail. But the interesting thing is, if you listen to the red pill community about an alpha male, a beta male, and so forth and so on, they got a little bit right, and they just throw a little bit of truth and a whole lot of lies. So it sounds good where it draws you in. Where it's like, yeah, you kind of right. This men are out here doing this, that, and the other, and this is what we should be, and this is what we're looking for. But they always just take it and just pervert it just a little bit. Like, yeah, I was good till you said that. So I think it's important for us to understand, what they're referring to, especially the red pill community, and with that alpha male versus a man of God. And really, for me, it's just a man still has to surrender under authority, and we're talking about the authority of God.
Yeah, I have two things to say. Maurice, you use the term toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity. I don't even associate with that term. I don't agree with
Man,
toxic
yes.
masculinity. Um,
Right.
because
All right.
that's a term that just recently was began to be thrown around, but it really doesn't exist. There's no such
Mhm.
thing as toxic masculinity. That was a term that was coined and started to be used by pop culture and culture to
Right.
shame men to even
Mhm.
embrace their masculinity. But when people oftentimes, when they refer to toxic masculinity, what they really are referring to is somebody who just wants to be a jerk. Has nothing to do with being masculine, has nothing to do with being feminine. It all has to do with someone who is indoctrinated within themselves and are choose to treat other people in society in a way less than what God calls us to, the way God calls us to treat people, which is image bearers. Whether they believe in God or not, they're still image bearers. And so when you get a person like that, that's just a person who is a jerk, and that's just what it is. But I don't think it has anything to do with being masculine at all. And I think so often masculine gets coupled with so many negative terms
Mhm.
to where we're trying to shame little boys who are no older than 5 into um or excuse me, trying to shame them out of embracing the fact that they're masculine. So, this
Mm-hmm.
whole gender fluidity, redefining what masculine is, that's all, it all runs together. It all runs together. And going back to the alpha man, well, it all, whether or not the alpha man is synonymous with the man of God, it just depends on what version you're talking about. Are we talking about the fresh and fit version? The fresh and fit version of an alpha man?
Or
Because
Andrew
if
Tate, come on.
or Andrew Tate, because if we're talking about that version, that man is not concerned about nobody but himself. At the end of the day, he's most concerned about himself. And it's funny because um, and I know Chad said that there's a lot of truth in it. There is a lot of truth in it, but I think we have to peel back the layers and say, okay, yeah, they're leaders, but what is the end goal as to why they're leading?
Mm-hmm.
Are they leading just to say I'm top dog and to get all the women? Or are they leading to help other people get into a better place?
Mm-hmm.
There's always a, what is the motive behind what they're doing and why are they doing it? So I could say, yes, wife, submit to me, but if I'm not giving her a reason or a benefit or a godly example as to why she should submit to me, and if I'm not following God as if I'm supposed to, or excuse me, as I'm supposed to, then she would be, if she's half stepping with the submit, she would have every right to,
Right.
because I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So yeah, so I think this thing is very nuanced, but I love where the conversation is going for sure. For
And
sure.
then because both of those brothers are right on with the idea of kind of thing. Miss Andre mentioned that truth, and Chad also mentioned it too. If we look at biblically, and I'm a preacher, so biblically, when you start there, when you look at Genesis chapter number 3, the
Yeah.
Satan, the serpent, knew the truth,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
so did at that point, so did Eve, and all he did was just twist the word in there. All he put in there
Yes.
was not,
Mm.
and then that
Hmm.
was the only thing that she needed, so to speak. And
Mhm.
then theoretically, that was the only thing that Adam needed. So you're right in that there's a whole bunch of truth in a lot of stuff that we find. However, there's always something in there, as you said, Jermaine, that you have to understand what the motive
Right.
is. And when we talk about submission, a lot of people will totally miss and tear up Ephesians chapter number 5. And when it's talking about those 3 or 4 scriptures that it's talking about
Mhm.
women,
Submission.
then
Yep.
there's a whole nother 8 and whole nother 8 verses that's talking about men and what men should do. And then we
Mhm.
want the Proverbs 31, but we ain't the Proverbs 1 through 30 man to even get the Proverbs 31. So there's a whole bunch of things that, like you said, that people want to ascribe to, but they have just not even been in the word long enough. If they want to call themselves Christian men or head of the household or whatever the case is, head of the household just simply means you the one that takes the responsibility. If something comes down and something needs to be done, you're the one that's supposed to take that. Not you don't have the Adam and Eve syndrome. You don't say, God, well, it was the woman that you gave me, and I had she listened to me. Now we wouldn't have got into this mess. No, you're the one that holds up that responsibility. So and then the idea of alpha male. Now, this is where I told my wife I was talking to her about this, so hopefully she forgive me. I said I wasn't gonna really say it, but I think I'm gonna say it here. The term alpha male comes from an animalistic concept. That's where that comes from. It comes from a kind of a primate idea. That's that when you watch National Geographic and we talk about the lions and the gorillas and all that, that's from an instinctive perspective that an alpha male is the one that dominates and has all the women or all the female animals come to them. So if you want to be considered as a animal, if you will, then maybe you call yourself alpha male, so to speak. But also you have to understand that God called us to be have a certain intellectual level and not just be instinctive. There are stuff that we do instinctively. There are some things that are in us that causes us to be men that just makes us different from women. However, there's an intellectual process that we have within our brains that causes us to not be so domineering in our women or around our women, because we understand our power. When we first meet, when we talk to our wives, or when we first meet our wives, we start talking to them with this all soft voice. Hey girl, how you doing? I don't talk to my wife like I talk to the boys. I don't do that. But when I'm around women, and especially my wife, especially my daughter, she doesn't need to hear my bass all the time, because I have the intellect to know that I can come down and actually do what I need to do to be that man of God that she needs to see and find the husband that she needs to have.
Man, that's good. And if I can interject real quick, because you start bringing some scripture, the New Testament just started flowing, because I was thinking about when Jesus was talking to the disciples, and he says, "He that wants to be first must be last, must serve." And so the concept of alpha male is me. As Jermaine was said, it's all about me. But in the kingdom of God, the way the kingdom is set up, if you want to be the top, you must go to the bottom. You must serve. You must be willing to lay your life on the line. You must be willing to do the dirty work, in a sense. And we see that Christ, being the ultimate head, he laid down his life in service for us, not because we did anything right, not because we deserved it, simply because he understood the principle that God was trying to establish on this earth. And so for us to be men of God, I think it's to be servants first, to be servants to our wives, service to our kids, service to our community, service to our church. Now we understand there is a perspective we look at when we're talking about service, but nevertheless, as men of God, we are to serve, and that's one of the first callings we are called to do.
So I'm
amen, man.
I was gonna throw a curveball real quick.
Well, I just wanted to interject what Duran said on the animal kingdom. It's funny because oftentimes when people want to make analogies and examples, they always go to the animal kingdom. And one thing you have to understand about the difference between us as humans being animals as opposed to wild animals is that we have intellect and we have a soul and a spirit. A soul and a spirit. Those wild animals, they don't. This is why the male lion, once he finds a lioness who has children already that are not his, can kill the cubs, because that's the animal kingdom. So if we want to live by the rules of an animal kingdom, we will be locked up in jail yesterday. Okay? So we have to understand that God gave us intellect, highly intelligent beings. All right, we're the image bearers of God. Lions are not the image bearers of God. Tigers are not the image bearers of God. Gorillas, birds, anything that you can name are not the image bearers of God. We are. All right, and so where much is given, much is required. We have to use our intellect use our compassion, use the Holy Ghost that God has given us as believers to make wise decisions. There's no way a gorilla could be wise as a serpent, but yet harmless as a dove. But God has called us to do that as men, as children, as men, women of God. So there's a distinction. So I can't stand when people, especially believers, go to the animal kingdom to get our cues. If Christ wasn't enough to get our cues, it's a slap in the face to go to monkeys and lions to say, I'm gonna get my cues from that lion that would tear you limb from limb if he had the chance. So I mean, that's all I had to say on that, man. I'm sorry. I didn't want to overrun it.
Before I threw my curveball in there, I was going to see if Chad wanted to jump in on that.
Well, I'll say first and foremost, right? Like when I mentioned that the red pill had it all right, I meant it tongue in cheek because they had half of the story right. Because in order for a functional family and society to work, you need that harmony. And generally, a man being the stronger element, right? The more, of course, masculine element, the counterbalance is that femininity, right? And what's happening in society today is that there's a lack of masculinity amongst men and an abundance of masculinity amongst women. And with that imbalance, we're like, we don't know if we're going left, right, coming or going. We're really in a place of confusion. And I don't think that we should dismiss the animal kingdom because the animal kingdom actually simplifies life in many ways. They don't have the intellect to start to tell you that you should have pronouns. They don't have the intellect to tell you that you could choose to be what you are. They are what they are, right? That's the essence of it. You are who you are when you're an animal. And as men, we are who we are. The challenge is that now a lot of the leaders in our society, they take a man as he is and he says, nah, that's not enough. You need more women. You need more money. You need more jewelry to be what you are, right? So I think the real essence of it, and catch this, right? When you think of alpha, you think strong. You think I'm the one, right? I think being alpha is being able to surrender. I think really being strong as a man is being willing to let go and trusting in God, because when you do that, the power that you actually access is supernatural. It's bigger than anything on the earth that you could find. It's deeper than any kind of congruence that you could find within yourself if you tried to walk with more of a limp or if you had more of a beard, you know what I'm saying? Right, Maurice? A little more facial hair? All right?
I mean, I don't know. I'm the only one out of bed here.
Right? Like, there's nothing
my pictures in the middle, so like I'm the alpha in this conversation.
Right. There's nothing that you could do from a worldly perspective to give you the strength that you will have when you surrender to God. And that's also when you surrender to what God has given you, like your wife.
That I struggled with for a minute, right? Because I was a huge fan of Kevin Samuel because he dropped so much gems and he was real and he was right. The only part of the equation that he forgot about was the responsibility that a man has. We can't have these conversations and say, oh, but a woman did this, women did. Nah. It's 100% on us as men to be able to subdue your woman. But it's not subdue them with strength, but it's subduing them with assurance that they could rest in who you are. They have that protection. They have that comfort. They see the vision inside of you. Without that, if they know that you're going to go up and down with them, with their emotions, right, or with their feelings, or with what happens in society, how are they supposed to feel confident? They're supposed to have a bad day at work, bring it home to you, and you be like, all right, babe, I got you. That's over now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's the essence of when we talk about alpha. I think that that is not something we can't ignore the truth of it. It's a real thing. We can't, you know what I mean? Like there's some men that would sell their family out for a woman. That's a beta. There's some men that will sell their vision out for likes. That's a beta. There's some men that would lie about everything that they are to be popular.
Beta.
But a man that's willing to stand on his own too, willing to live and die by his principles and his values and be a leader in his lane. And I think this is where we differ from animals. Alpha is not defined just by how strong you are physically. I think it's defined by how strong you are in the vision that God has given you.
See, that's why I'll say they're, in my opinion, like after like diving in, like in preparation for this conversation, I'll say they're mutually exclusive because, and I'll say it like this, like there are Christians that are like Christian, like you look at them, like I watch your life, I see you, okay, you're a Christian. But then there's other people that's like, yo, I'm a Christian, yo, look at me, look at my life, I do this. I'm like, they have to tell you that they're Christian. And the same thing, like when I'm picking up is like the alpha male, like they're like, oh, I'm an alpha, you know, I command the room, I got authority. But like the curveball I was gonna throw was like Jesus was alpha, but he was omega too, right? And so we gotta be alpha and omega
Right.
to follow after Christ, right? But even that being said, like he was authoritative place, like he didn't take nothing from nobody, but at the same time, like what all you guys are saying is like he was a servant too. He served his people, he served his following, but he also he showed them how to lead, but then he was a leader in his own right too. So I think it's how we really defined it. Like we give words, and even in that sense, I would say as far as like what a true alpha is, like take that back. If there's some kind of separation, I'll say, you know, we define a real alpha as a man of God, and like take that back because, like you said, like some people put an alpha male with that toxic masculinity, but like I agree with Jermaine. It's like that don't exist as far as it's like either you masculine or you feminine. Like those are the only two things. Going back to what Dre was saying, because you guys was dropping gems, so I'm just doing a quick recap as we move forward. But he was like with going back to the animal kingdom analogy, he just made male and female, he, him, right after their own kind. He made she, and so in that sense. You know, is it wrong to say that they're mutually exclusive, or like what are we really, you know, how we really defining it? And I feel like we're really defining here, and it's not really a matter of using the term alpha male, because while you guys was talking, I was thinking of like some terms like man's man and like just masculine and all these kind of terms that we use, but it's almost shifting to like what is a real man?
See, and I think we, and see, I think we got to be careful because one of the tricks of the enemy is to divide. That's one of the things he uses is divide. And so when we get into the place of calling someone an alpha or not, and this is even a bigger term in sports, we hear it all the time. Michael Jordan was an alpha man. That was an alpha man. You know, LeBron's not an alpha because he doesn't command or whatever. And see what that does, it causes division. It causes one person, one male to be ahead of the other. So if you're not the alpha, then that means you're less than, you know, and you feel inferior to whoever, you know, however you want to term the next omega, gamma, sigma. They got a whole 6 terms for them. And we have to be careful because Jesus' whole thing was to unify. He wanted to unify in any means necessary. And we saw him when he was on this earth through the scriptures. He played every role. We saw him going to the temple, turning over chairs, but we also saw him laying down his life. We saw him talking to the Samaritan woman who the Jews had no dealings with, but we also saw him before Pontius Pilate. Like, so we saw him in every capacity, in every role that he needed to be, for one purpose, that was to bring salvation to the world, that was to fulfill the law. We saw him do those things. So we have to be careful when we start talking about alpha and what a real man is and a manly man, and you do this and what a man isn't, because all that is starting to do is cause division among us already. What a man is. Well, you a weak man because you ain't, your nails are clean. Like, you ain't really getting the dirt or anything like that. And we got to be careful of that, because as we start raising our children, our young men, they look at us like that, and they have a hard time differentiating, because I play video games, so I'm not a man. Like, yeah, that has nothing to do with. And so we got to be careful, because we are leading the next generation. And we got to be careful of putting each person, each male, in a box, because as we're falling right into the enemy's trap. Because if we bring this into the church, so then are we saying the pastor is the alpha male of the church? Is that what we're saying? And every other man that comes to the church is less than the pastor? Is that how we're going to define it? Is that, or because they say if we're talking, y'all brought in animal kingdom, and I'm going to leave this alone. In a pride of lions, yeah, and I said pride, there is one alpha, and then the women, and any other man that comes that's old enough, he can challenge the alpha, and if he can't, he will get killed, ate, or kicked out of the pride. So if we're using those analogies, we have to be careful of what we're saying, because that there should be unity in the church, not bumping heads with another male because I think I'm the head deacon, I'm the head minister, I'm the head preacher, whatever the case may be.
The HNIC.
So
let's go ahead and just keep it a G. The HNIC.
Yes. And so we got to be careful of that. And I'm done with that. I'm done with that. Y'all ain't got my blood pressure up.
I thought Chad was about to say something.
I think that there's truth into what Chad was saying too. Like we can't totally discard the animal kingdom, but I think we need to be careful not to try to mirror our lives exactly like they get down, because you can see the beauty and the wonder and the splendor of God in all creation, and this is why God gave us. We can use observable data and observable knowledge and say, oh, you know what? I see how they do it. They're really, and if you look at how they're doing it, it's very simplified. Right. Nobody's questioning every day, you know what? Maybe I feel like a dude. Well, you know what? Tomorrow I might feel like a girl. Well, you know what? It's very simplified. And so you can really see the beauty in simplicity when it comes to God's creation. But I think if we because it's almost like with college professors. Typically, when you go to college, you go to any type of course or anything. You don't even have to be in college, or even when it comes to high school, you have to learn to chew the meat and do what? Spit out the bone. And that's the same thing when it comes to the animal kingdom. There's a lot of meat on that. There's a lot of stuff we can glean from that. However, we need to know, hey, listen. Because you can put together some of the most magnificent medications, but if you mix one drop of poison in there, you know what I'm saying? You done just jacked it all up. And so there was something else I was going to say. Oh, this is what I was going to say. Yeah, piggybacking off of what Andre and what Maurice said. And I think Devon too. I think all of y'all. Listen, at the end of the day, we got to understand somebody got to be the follower. Y'all heard the term there's too many chefs in the kitchen, or it's too many chiefs, not enough what? There you go. So at some point in time, you're going to have to learn how to follow. I teach my kids to be leaders. However, they still got to know how to follow somebody. And once they learn how to follow, then in another chapter, because we all live in chapters. In another chapter, that's going to be
Leaders,
them
yes.
being the leader. And then it also depends on what setting we're in. You get somebody who is a master at playing video games, well, they might be the leader. But you put them on a bowling alley at a bowling, to go bowling, somebody else might be the leader. You get them in Bible studies, somebody else
Mhm.
might be the leader. You get them playing pool. I love playing pool now. Listen, you get them playing pool. Somebody else is the pool shark. So what I'm trying to say is that there's beauty in understanding that there's nuance. Not everybody's going to be I would rather be the master of one than
Oh,
the jack of trades and the
that's
master of
Bible. That's
none.
Bible.
So somebody is going to always have to fall back at times. But this is why we need to exercise wisdom. Because if we all went to a male conference and everybody's trying to be the leader, I promise you, I kid you not, because we would not get nail
Mm.
one thing done because everybody's trying to lead. And so I think that there's humility in that. I think there's beauty in that. And I believe that it is those things that keep us from getting puffed up with pride.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think kind of what we're kind of stumbling across now is the real thing is that oftentimes where the alpha male, the man of God, or that what they get misconstrued of is really people or men or young men trying to find identity
Mm.
and what they want to their life to look like and whatnot. That's kind of how I started my tonight, was because I really because I really wanted to make people understand that
Yeah.
that's the journey that I went on. Growing up without a father, what does a man look like to me? How am I going to give my family something that I never really see exemplified in my own life? What am I going to do? The only thing I knew to do was look at some of the men from the church, look at look at
Mhm.
That's it.
what I wanted my dad to be,
Yeah.
and try to output that with my children and
Yep.
with my wife. So I think where men get lost at, and even where women get lost at, is that they don't know specifically that identity of a man, and that's it. And then everything gets misconstrued. I'm one of those people. I work in behavioral health, so if somebody sat in my chair and sat in the session, they started using the term alpha male, I would not correct them. I was just let them go and walk down their road and actually see what they're actually defining as.
Amen.
If
Amen.
somebody, the next
Right.
person walked in and talked about a man of God, I will walk down that road and actually have them express to me and explain to me how that looks like to them.
Mhm.
And if there's are any correction that I can help them with, maybe I'll do that. But however, I'm probably going to end the session out. Matter of fact, I just had somebody say that I'm probably going to end the session out. How's your family? Do they feel
Mhm.
love? Do they feel secure? And do they feel safe? And if you have done that as a man, I think you've done it. And whether you believe you're alpha male or man of God, if you handle the responsibilities of your family with the foundation, making sure everything don't crumble, then you
Uh
have
oh.
actually done what you're supposed to do as a man. Our responsibility as a male is to make sure we take care of our family spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. And if one of those things is out of whack, our family will be out of whack.
Man, if I could ask a question, because you hit on something, and I'm glad you went there. You started talking about identity. Why as men have we lost our identity? Have lost our identity?
That's a loaded question, and I would love to hear everybody's responses, because I there's so many things, because now we have to think about
So
n- now we have to think about which man are we talking about?
no, you go.
Are we talking about the black male, or are we talking about men in general? Because that's a big question that we could go down and have all these little rabbit holes that would take us there. But I also think if I was to generalize it, I would say that society and Satan plays a trick on making you feel uncomfortable with who you are.
Mhm.
So
Mm.
even when you start trying to do whatever it is that you believe it is right, Satan would say, "Well, are you really doing it right?" It's kind of go back to that Genesis chapter 3 again. it wasn't that they didn't know what God said. It was just that all the serpent did was just insert this thing, this little nugget here.
Did God really say? Did God really say?
Yeah, did he really mean that you will die, or was he talking metaphorically?
Right.
Because
You
those
ain't
are
gonna
two
die.
different things. Because I can accept dying metaphorically, but what I'm scared to do is actually die physically. So that's where all those things get misconstrued. So I think, generally speaking, not to go down different cultures and whatnot, is that when we start to walk down the road that's correct, the Bible even says there's a way of the road that seems right to man,
Mm-hmm.
but
But
also
then
leads to destruction. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So when we start walking down the narrow way, sometimes Satan just said, "No, I think did you make the right turn? Maybe you were supposed to take that right. That looks like, that looks like they got some stuff over there that can help you out." And that's where I think we lose that identity.
So I would say real quick, then I'll let you go, Jermaine. So I would say, to answer your question, Dre, I believe that and one thing I say often is that, like, when men are acting like real men, you don't hear them talk about it because they're not going to boast or gloat about it. So the ones that are doing it right, they're not talking about it,
Mm-hmm.
and so all you hear is the guys, like, having these conversations, like the extreme like alphas, as I'll call them, or like how Chad broke down the betas. Like, they're the ones that are having the conversations, right? They're the ones that are like you're seeing everywhere. And I'm like, I know I'm doing my thing right. Besides this conversation, I don't have many conversations like this too often, or in confidence, like, a private one off to the side, but not broadcasted. And so I think that's what's happening, is that what people are seeing are a result of the ones that are talking. Because as most men are, they're like, I don't need, if you're a real man, a man's man, alpha God, you don't have to prove yourself. You're just doing it. And so that's kind of how I think that's why it's not being talked about. I think that's why we're like in this space where it's not really heavily being seen. When I'm not like, oh yeah, my wife loves me and my kids doing this, and I was reading the word today, and he was just like, don't be boastful of yourself. Let the next man boast you up. Let
Right.
verse 27, right? Where it talks about that. He said, don't that's pride. That's going to lift yourself up. He said, let me lift you up. Let someone else lift you, basically. And I think with that kind of mindset, as real men, we don't even think twice about like kind of, I guess, say, hey, this is what real man looks like. Well, until now, because I'm creating space for these conversations for men like us to see how we, talk, how we articulate, how we carry ourselves. But go ahead, Jermaine.
Well, I have two questions I want to present. First question is this. Do you really feel that the term or this push for alpha males is a direct response to combat the fourth wave feminism we're experiencing? Like the whole adage of, I don't need no man, men ain't ish. I can do bad all by myself. Most men ain't, So, because what fourth wave feminism, what's encompassed in that is looking at men as a utility, as opposed to someone I can pair bond with, someone I can spend my life with, someone who I can sow into as he sows into me. The whole conversation of, especially, and I hate to say it, our melanated sisters, the whole concept of I am the table and I don't have to bring anything to the relationship. So since I am the prize, it's all up to him to perform and to do. And so men are clapping back saying, oh, wait a minute. To combat that, I'm going to be an alpha and look out for me, because these people out here, or these women, don't really care about me. Fourth wave feminism too. So do y'all think that the alpha male, the whole adage of it, is in a response to fourth wave feminism, which is what we have today?
Yeah, I remember one day my daughter was like 3 years old, right? and I was putting her into her car seat, and I snapped the buckle onto her leg meat. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And
Woo.
yeah, right. So
Mm.
she was silent, and then she just started screaming, ah, 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 and then she got mad and like was like trying to push me and push me off of her, and it's like I was so hurt by the fact that I hurt her, but I didn't care that she was
Oh.
pushing me. I didn't have to push back because she pushed me. And
Mm.
when you look at these situations, like you're talking about fourth wave feminism, hurt people, right? So if we
Mm.
know that this is a conversation being had by scarred women that have been victims and victimized and still living their victim story, and they're not coming from a place of strength, but they're coming from a loud place of victimization, for us to go ahead and argue with them, don't you have to be a victim? Now, if you're a victor, if you're a man of God, if you're a real alpha, then you'll be able to say, hey, I get it. I understand that you're hurt, but you're not going to bring yourself down to that level of conversation. So now we're actually perverting the idea of an alpha man to a complaining, whiny, irresponsible man that puffs his chest and gets a couple girls and learns how to drop a couple pickup lines. That's not what an alpha male is, right? So I think for me, like Kevin Samuel in particular, he really resonated with me at a time that I'd gotten out of a situation where I was dealing with an abusive woman, not physically abusive, but I'm talking about narcissistic abuse, right? And when I heard Kevin Samuels, he resonated so much because submit to your man, right? Submit, 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 submit. But when I separated myself spiritually from that whole situation and I was able to realize that, look, the man that I see myself as, the man that I aspire to be, can't be disturbed or perturbed by the issues that a woman has, right?
Mhm.
I have to
Mm-hmm.
be able to be in alignment again with the mission that I have for myself, but also being able to be a place of strength for my queen. Because when a woman come to me, she ain't bringing that argument to me, fam. That I'm the that's not my woman. She's not for me. The one that
Mm-hmm.
is for me would know that she gets to rest in me and I rest in her. Right? I, I don't have to fight for submission because she wants to submit to me.
You,
That's
you know,
Hey,
I think
brother. Hey, wait a minute.
yeah,
He
I
said a
think that's
lot
in,
right there.
and he really did.
y'all
He
better
really did, and I think the interesting thing, because I think part of it even goes back to what Duran was saying about the identity. I think that resonates. The alpha male resonates a lot because some men don't know who they are, and I find it very interesting with the fresh and fit guys, even Samuel Tate. They're not married. I find that interesting that they're not married.
you all married, you all married, right?
I find that extremely interesting that they're not, but they're the progenitors of that. So I think it is when you don't know who you are, you latch on to anything. Especially as a man, you're trying to find where you fit in, who you fit in with. And I think it's a big point. And I like what Chad was saying and all that he said, which is so good because there is a status and a standard as men, whether you want to call yourself man of God or even alpha or both. There's still a standard that God has set for us and that we should uphold to, if we're trying to protect, love, raise our family, our women, our children. So that was a good question, man. That was a real good question.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and if I could add to it, because all everything that was said was just kind of spot on, and with coming especially with Mr. Chad dropping all those, not just nuggets, just a whole chicken out there, you know. But I mean, but he was just right in so many ways, because I do believe you're going back to your original question that it is a pushback from the hurt, and that kind of how Chad started. So I do believe that. That's my personal opinion. But not only Andre are the the super supposedly alpha male, they all single, but so are the extreme feminists. You know, and they're looking for love, and they don't even realize they're looking for love. And then, as they say, the old folks say,
All the
look for
wrong
love in
places.
all the wrong places, right?
Mhm.
And that comes into intellect, not just in actual geographical locations, but what are you looking for? How are you looking for love when you step out? How are you presenting yourself to be lovable? And those things like that. You know, and then you have the our call also was the extreme side of the Me Too movement, and not just because women have been so unheard for so long when it comes to sexual assaults and whatnot and sexual harassment. That does need to be a movement, but then there was this extreme side to where women didn't even know how to hear a man like them. They didn't even know how to hear a man say, "Hey, you look beautiful." They didn't know how, you know, I could open the door for myself. I got, okay, cool. You go through the door then, you know. So so then there was this extreme side. So generally speaking, when there's always an extreme side to anything, and I think what we have to find out a way to do to present in a way like the brothers here tonight is to present. No, there's a balance to this thing. There's always a balance to life. There's always a way to where if I do need to flip the tables like Jesus, I'll do it. But if I do need to just sit down and just watch, I'll do that. If I do need to stand up and speak, I'll do that. If I do need to sit down and shut up, I'll do that. There's always a balance in knowing, and a real man knows it. And kind of what Maurice pointed to earlier. And this is what I often say. I get weary of folk that got to tell me they Christians. And I get weary of folk that got to tell me that they this man, that man, the alpha male, alpha females are out there too. That's another term that's out there too. I get weary of them because if you ever got to tell me who you are, that's probably not who you are.
Right.
Maurice, brother, you was gonna say something, man.
No, I was gonna say no because what I was gonna say. I was gonna ask a different question, but I'm glad you asked it the way you did. My mind going like down this rabbit hole, and really put in perspective. Because like now that I'm thinking about it, like you hear like back when like independent women songs was coming out and all this kind of stuff, that wave like kind of really shifted first, and like I'm enjoying Chad with calling them betas. The betas got mad and they started responding and attacking them back. And I'm thinking, just from what we all just said, like we're all chilling, happily married, you know, just having a conversation about, okay, let them fight over there because we good over here where we should be like showing them the way, like, hey, there's a reason why y'all single over here, Miss Independent Woman and Mr. Alpha Male or Mr. Super Masculine over here. You know, you're talking it, but you're not really living it. Like people like. I would just ask rather, how can we better ourselves? Because somebody said something earlier. I think it was Jermaine or Chad. Well, where they was talking about recognizing the situation. Like you might be a top dog in this area, but you might not be top dog in that. Well, I see these like black males as ourselves that are like in our different spaces, but it's like. If I'm not going to be top dog in that, I'm not going to be a part of that, right? And I think that's what us as black males struggle with, like as a society, right? Is because if we're not the top dog, then I'm not going to be a part of it. And so we're all struggling trying to build by ourselves. We're like, we can all come together and just rotate, you know, speak up, do our different things. We can show people how, you know. What I
was going to say is that, you know, one thing that Chad talked about, he was talking about how like the woman that, you know, that doesn't want to submit to him, that's not the woman for him. And I think that is really good because, you know, I'm married, Maurice, brother, you know, you're married, Deron, you're married. Andre, I don't know if you're married or not.
Yep, I'm married.
Okay. Okay. And so like, and that's cool. But see, I don't want to get the mentality of I got my pie or I got mine, you get yours. Because even though we are 4 brothers on here out of 5 that are married, there's a whole population of brothers and sisters out there who don't have it right. And there's a lot of women who have that mentality of I ain't gonna submit to nobody. Well, if that's the case, those women, listen, they gotta find somebody. They're either gonna find somebody, or as Kaz always said, die alone. So so we have to be concerned about those people out there who don't have it right. Because I got 3 kids. I got 2 boys and a girl. And this is exactly why later on this week, I believe it'll be later on this week if I can get my streaming right, I'm going to do a whole live series on the Passport Bros Exodus. Why is that even a thing? Why is it even a thing? And what we have to do to either course correct or die alone. And because if we don't course correct, we're not going to have a future. That whole term of being a passport bro, guess what, y'all? That's not a new concept. It's just a new hashtag. I got uncles and cousins who are 40, 50, 60 years old. They were doing that back then, all right? In the military, or the brothers who could travel, they were doing it back then, but it's starting to get more and more popular because we have social media and we have a hashtag. But if we don't start learning how to build with one another and not tear down each other with this fourth wave feminism, because a lot of us who look like us are being duped, and were duped from the beginning back in the 60s from people who didn't look like us, who were saying you don't need a man, but they were going home to their husbands.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be concerned with the least of these in this situation. The least of these in this situation are the people who have a warped mindset as to what to expect from a man, what is a man, what is a godly woman, what does it mean to submit? Why is it a strength to submit? Brother, why is it a strength for you to be meek? Because the other question that I had for this whole situation was, do we think it'll be beneficial for women to actually hang around or be around men? Because what we're finding is that a lot of women have not been around men to even know men. And if you don't know men, you don't know what men want. And if you don't know what men want, it's going to be but before so long, but it ain't going to be but before long to where those men that if you don't know what they want, they're not going to want to be around you. And so I think that is the larger question. And I don't want to go into that, man. I want to stay on your question, but I think that is a very good question for us to ask. Do you think it would be beneficial for women to get around men, to learn about men? Because right now they don't know us.
Right. So
I was gonna
go there. I was gonna say, let's close with that. I feel like that'll be a good place to end on with that thought, because I definitely want to kind of, whoever want to join again, like another time, like next week or in 2 weeks. But that is a good question. I was gonna ask something similar to that, but in a different way. But I think because of time, I know we got our families. Let's unpack that real quick with y'all. If y'all had anything else to say, but I think it's really good.
I like the question, but I think it goes to, and I'm not going to ask a question after a question, but it goes to another concept. Another concept that what's going on is what you kind of spoke on, and it's the attack of the enemy to break up a family. Because you were right, they talk about the passport bros. That's what happened with the military. That's what happened with drugs entered into the black communities. That's what happened when all the black males start going to jail, because it broke up the nucleus of the family. So if the man's not in the household, that means any and everything could come into the household. That means you get children, boys and girls being raised without a father, just by a mother. So now the male does not understand the role of a father in a household. So all he sees is women. All he sees is femininity. And we know that goes one or two ways. Either they go a hard left or they go a hard right. And so then if you go hard left, then then now we're steeping into that gender identity. You can't tell me, as one comedian said, not your wrist is broke. And now you can't tell me what I am and what I ain't because I want to walk this lifestyle. If you go the other way, well, now I'm going to sleep with and get every woman I think I can have. Now I got, 6 baby mamas, 20 kids out here. They all now are being raised without a father. And that perpetuates. It continues to perpetuate. So now we have all these single family households where there's no mother or there's no father, or in some cases there's neither. So now there is a family structure without structure. And the Bible is big on structure. Amen. And when there's no structure, there's chaos and there's confusion. And that's really what we are seeing today. It's just mass confusion. Women wanting to be the men wanting to be the women. I remember a couple years ago, it was the whole adage, what if your wife makes more than you? Can you be a stay-at-home dad? Like, that's preposterous. Not preposterous, but that's the society. That's what society is pushing, is that you can be anything, do anything, and be anywhere you want to be and still be okay. And we know that goes directly against what the Bible is, but that's the enemy's job, is to pervert everything that God has set in place. God set male and female. When the devil's like, well, there's trans. You can be this, you can be that. God said, in a household, it's man, woman, and kid. God's like, well, you can have, the enemies, you can have 2 women, or you can have 2 male that raise a family. The enemy's job is to pervert. And Jermaine, you're right. If we as men, you say you have 2 boys and a girl, I have the same. And my responsibility is not only to teach my boys what a man is, but also to teach my daughter what a man is. So Amen. when she's out dating, when she's out seeking a husband, she knows, nah, that ain't it. Well, why not? Well, because I know my dad did this, and that. And if you don't at least meet that standard, then I don't know. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, you ain't at least doing this, then we going somewhere else.
Because listen, y'all. I mean, all of us, we were young teenagers at one point. Especially in our community, the old guard is gone. Like, the man on the wall is not there. So how many of y'all, now listen, don't incriminate yourselves. When you when you were a teenager, how many of y'all, if you tried to talk to a girl, you felt confident if they didn't have no daddy at home? By show of hands. Listen, come on, listen. If you saw a girl and she was popping, and all of a sudden you find out, oh, wait a minute, ain't no daddy to go through? Hey, you feel like you got a get out of jail free card, right? By show of hands, who felt that way?
Yes,
who
sir.
felt that way?
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
It was a lot easier.
Oh, she got daddy issues.
No, well,
okay.
Hey, listen. But see, if she didn't have no father, that was one less barrier, a huge barrier to get. That was one less barrier to get through. But if she had a strong father, man, you almost didn't even want to look her direction as a kid and teenager. Like, man, she got a daddy. Dang, man. Lord, forgive us in our sin. But you know what I'm trying to say. I'm not even talking about having sex. I'm not even talking about sexual intercourse. I'm talking about just talking to him. Dang, man, she got a pappy. Ah!
Blessed Lord.
you be sitting up in algebra. You be sitting up in algebra mad as fire because she got a daddy. But that's what we missing in algebra. You be in algebra ticked off. They be like, "Why you mad?" Hey, we ain't even gonna talk about it. But I'm just saying, all of us have been there. But that just shows you the value of having that father at home. And if we had more of that for our young daughters to glean from, like Andre was saying, man, we would be so further ahead. So further ahead. So yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that because, like, even being a father, like, look, I'm short, but look, I
That's
still
right.
put the fear in God in these things. I be trying to talk to my daughter. My daughter taller than me. She don't like when I say that. But look, we still put the fear of God in them. Like if they know the father there, oh, that's your dad.
Yes.
Better.
Yes, sir. Hello, sir.
Yeah. You better.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
But you know, that's
Me and Chad out here be doing what was it, the Bad Boys 3?
True.
yeah, yeah.
True. How old is
And you
you?
know
Man, I'm
that
15. You look 27.
yeah.
You look
But
good.
you know, that's what we need to do. And actually, and that is a very great question, Jermaine, with our women or our young girls being around men. We used to have uh, a divas class at our church where all the ladies get up and they young ladies will sit in corporate courses to learn etiquette and learn how to be women and walk in modesty and whatnot. And one of the things I asked them one time, the leader of that particular time, I asked, have you had any men in there? Or is it all just women teaching about stuff? Because how in the world are you really going to teach? Kind of like as you were saying to me, how in the world are you really going to tell them our game? Because you done fell for it already. How are you going to teach them our game? How are you going? Because it ain't just a daddy. The other thing I'm looking for is if I can get you to smile. If I and brothers too, but if I can get you to smile, if I can get you to a vulnerable place at any time, I got you. So that was the other thing that we look for, that smile. When he had the daddies, when he had the brothers, the uncles need to be far away too. But if I got you alone and I got you to smile.
Get you to kick in, as grandma said.
Yeah, that's
kick in and grin
We need to be really teaching these young women. Like I'll be having these conversations with my kids. Like we be having these conversations, and so
man,
you put them on game. Like, look, when you go out there, especially the ones that are getting older. When you go out there, I was a young boy too. This how the boys be acting.
And that's what I did with. I grew up with. I grew up with 5 women in the house. I really could have, as you were talking about, I really could have went either left or right. And I just thank and praise God that I got down the narrow street. But I have 3 sisters also. And one of the things I try to do, and I got 2 nieces on top of that, well, 3 nieces total, on top of that. And I try to teach them, this is what the world is looking to do to you. And then that's going to be the thing that I try to teach my daughter too. But then also we cannot forget about our boys. When you think about, again, I'm a preacher. We use illustrations a lot of times, right? There's this man, Simon of Cyrene, who helps carry the cross of Jesus. And then in Acts, you find his sons professing the gospel.
Yep.
Just one moment. I'm helping Jesus bear the cross, telling about the sins of the world. But then later on, that's going to be what my son's job is going to be to do. So we have a particular responsibility. It's illustrated in the Bible, all throughout the Bible, but that is one in particular. If you don't know how to understand the Old Testament, you can read the New Testament. It's a little bit easier to understand. And you can see that story to where Simon of Cyrene is carrying the cross. And then his sons is spreading the gospel in the book of Acts. And we have that responsibility as men. If you call yourself alpha male all you want, if you cannot lead your children to live right, you have failed as a man.
That's good. That's good.
Hey, man, that's wrong.
Man,
that's another man.
Now listen, because Maurice, you already know that's very nuanced. Because you can raise them right? But when they get 21 to 18, sometimes, that wayward child, even though you put it in them, sometimes they be like, yo, because I got 2 brothers. We was all raised by the same mama, same daddy, same standards. two or three totally different people. Totally
Yeah,
different.
but that's the
You know that.
that's the story of the prodigal son. Two
Yeah.
brothers raised in the same household. One had to go see the world. The other one was like, "I'm good. I'm staying home with dad." And so
Right.
we can expect to have that, even in our household. Even if you want to take it on a grander scale, the 12 disciples. There was three that was in the close circle, couple others that were scattered, and then you had Judas that had him killed. Like, so we know even in the family structure, there are going to be, those nuances. But I like what Duran was saying, but I think our responsibility as men is to show them the path. I'm gonna map it out. I'm gonna show you where the pitfalls are. I'm gonna show you where the
There
gate
you
is, where
go.
the door is. Now it's up to you at a certain age. You have to make the choice if you're gonna jump over that, open up that gate, go through that door. That's on you at a certain point. But you can never say, I did not show you the
Yeah.
path,
Yeah.
the way, and give you the instructions that you need to succeed in life.
I love
Right.
that. I love that. I'm gonna let y'all go. But yeah, if you fail, it ain't gonna be because I didn't do my job.
Right.
It ain't gonna be on the blood is not gonna be on my hands. When I give an account to God for the deeds I did in this body, it ain't gonna be because daddy didn't lay no standard. No,
Hmm.
daddy can lay a standard all day, but at the
Hmm.
end of the day, like Andre said, it's up to you to choose what you're gonna do. Just like
Hmm.
Joshua said, choose you this day who you gonna
You're
serve.
gonna serve, yes, sir.
You got to make a choice, but it won't be because your daddy or your mama did not set
Didn't
that
show you
standard
that.
for you.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Right. And I'm glad that you came back and corrected that, because I sit with too many families that have that dynamic, to where did I go wrong as a parent, and where I start at is in kind of helping them outline that portion of it is actually get them to understanding that you did what you were supposed to do as a parent.
Hmm.
My point is, when you call yourself an alpha male or a man of God, regardless of the case, and you then
Mm,
set the standard and then they
Hmm.
go off their way, that's when you have failed. When you had never even attempted to
yeah.
actually do what you were called to do
We're
and
supposed to
handle
do.
your
Hmm.
responsibility, that's when you can't call yourself after. So that the young man I
Yeah.
was talking about, he went down that road, and
Mhm.
that's where I started with him, and that's how I helped him see where he was actually just a good father, because
Yo.
his attempt was there for to be the responsibility, regardless of what you call it. When you know your responsibility is to set the standard, you're doing your job as a man.
I think that's the most important job too, as fathers, is setting that standard for our children.
Yeah.
I think, and because and I think we find our own lane, because no one in the world acts the same, thinks the same, is built the same. Like each child in the home, especially if we have more kids, each child learns differently, and I think society teaches us like this is the one way you got to raise them, right? But you might have one child that you can talk to them
Yeah.
and they straight. One to
Yeah.
yell at them. One of them might actually need a spanking.
Yeah.
Depending on how many kids you got, like they all learn and receive differently. But if we have like that one trick, it's not gonna work for them all. Because like even and not to get off the main topic here, but just talking about parenting, like just in another vein, it's just like you see like how maybe our parents or people that we know like talk about how we raise our kids and how we should raise our kids, but then you look at your friends, your family, your cousins, you say, well, that this was your teaching, but how do your kids turn out, right? Look at how the new kids turn out. Every kid is different. Like you're gonna and that goes back to the prodigal, right? They were all raised in the same house, but they weren't really raised the same. Yeah, the first child was raised with as an only child. The second child was raised with experienced parents that already had one child. The third child, the parents are just like, okay, this I don't care at this point, right? So every stage is different, like in everyone's mind. So no kid was raised the same, but it's up to us to try to instill as much, be as present as possible, and instill as much in our kids as possible for them to inevitably make the best decision. But then, like you said, when they hit that 18, 21, we just pray and hope for the best. And as fathers, we got to keep that door open. Say, if you go out there and learn your lesson, you can always come back home. But then we just have to make sure we set that standard.
Yeah, bro. I know we done gone a lot longer than what you wanted to go, bro.
Yeah. Anybody want anything to wrap up with? I feel like Chad, you got something to close us out with. So some words of wisdom, man, because you've been quiet for a couple minutes. Right, just listen to that. Oh. Chad, you there? All right, well, I'll wrap it up then. So I definitely more than likely want to do another topic like this. If you're watching in the comments and you want to join in the conversation, just shoot me a message and I'll maybe add you to the next panel. Rotate it, or just, this is an awesome panel that we had here tonight. Because one thing I kind of want to talk about next time maybe is simping ain't easy, because that's like on the other side of the spectrum. But in closing, y'all, thank you, gentlemen, for just setting the standard and for being, the great man of God that you are. Tell everybody again your names, where they can find more information on you, and then we're going to just wrap it up.
I'll go first. Andre, or Elder Andre, starting my ministry, Spirit of Truth Ministries. You can find all my content on YouTube at The Elder and the Truth. I have different panels and podcasts just like this, so you can find some great content there.
Yeah, man. My name is Jermaine King. Thanks, Andre. My name is Jermaine King. We're here in Dallas, Texas, and our YouTube channel is That Christian Fam. And that's where you can find all of our content. We also are on Instagram with that same name as well, That Christian Fam. You can find us on there as well. And man, we just look forward to having good conversations where we ultimately point people in the direction of the cross.
Amen. And again, I'm Deron Harper. I'm here in Georgia, assistant pastor here in our local church here. You can find me on Facebook just right now, Deron Harper, that name. Just enter the page at your own risk. But bless you. God bless you. But I enjoyed the conversation. This is the second one I've been on with Jermaine, and it's just always good to just glean from other people and other perspectives. So it's a blessing to be on with you guys.
Amen.
Yes, sir.
And just wanted to invite you. Oh, go ahead, Chad. Back.
Yeah, I just wanted to say peace, guys. Man, it was a pleasure speaking.
Yeah, man.
I was busy being a beta male cooking, and I got to go run now.
Hey, bro, if that's a beta, if that's a beta, I got both hands up, bro. I'm the cook of the family. I love to cook. I am the cook of the household, and I love to cook, bro. You too, Maurice, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know I throw down.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Ain't no beta. Hey, listen, some of the best chefs I know, man, are men.
Yes, sir.
Hey,
Yes, sir.
the chef profession is
Yeah, I just took my apron
right,
off.
yeah.
I just took my apron off, and just about to go rub my wife's feet too. So no, but the truth of it is, I'm grateful for this conversation, and the honesty is, we mentioned the role that women play in our community, but it really comes down to the brothers, because when we think about it, right, a lot of us, when we were boys, we were taught how to be men by boys, right? And a lot of men are being taught how to be men by boys, right? And we get to keep on holding this space so that we're able to teach men the principles of manliness and having them understand the value of marriage, the value of fatherhood, and not to be swayed by whether it's first, third, fourth, fifth wave of feminism, just staying rooted in what we're about, rooted in God's truth, and rooted in our vision for our families and communities. So I'm really grateful for you, brothers, and your insight and your stories. For a second, it sounded like a reformed predators call. You know what I'm saying? I was hoping her daddy ain't home.
Oh, wow.
And if I made her smile, oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Before we close, I just wanted to shout out. I wanted to shout out that I wanted to highlight here. If you guys can save this link here at Chad the Linda, let me go back to that. Where did it go? Where did I lost it? Well, if you go to chadthelender.com, you can get a lot of information from my brother there, Chad, about your home buying process. We actually started a home buyer academy, and so I just wanted to share with you guys, since we're giving information that's going to help you and your family. Go ahead to that link I dropped in the comments below to kind of get you set up. If you're looking to buy a home, looking just to learn the process and everything you need to know about home buying, especially in this time, go ahead and save that link and get you squared away. And then if you like more conversations like this, I have a men's group that meets on Mondays. Go to mauriceijones.com. That is also in the comments there below. You can go ahead and just subscribe to the channel, get more information. Thank you guys for joining in. Appreciate you guys for joining me on the panel. And we're just going to end it on that note. All right.